Monday, May 1st, and this is your coffee break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with the latest local news, including a murder-suicide investigation right now happening in Norwalk. Later in the show, Frank Garrido will have a look at your forecast and a Nutmeg Sports update, and that will include winners of our Athlete of the Week poll. Donald Dang joins us later to take a look back on this day in history. But first, 2 people are dead in what's being investigated as a murder-suicide in Norwalk this morning, involving a father and a daughter. Around 12:30, patrol officers were dispatched to 66 Wilton Avenue. The complainants had gone to this address to check on a coworker, 33-year-old Melissa Wilkinson, who had not shown up for work. They reported that they observed their coworker lying on the floor through a window. The coworkers kicked in the door and found the coworker deceased. They also observed a male later identified as 55-year-old Mark Wilkinson sitting in the apartment holding a firearm. They fled the scene and called police. Arriving officers attempted to speak with that male, but he refused. The Norwalk Emergency Services Tactical Unit and Crisis Negotiations responded and attempted to make contact with the man. That man continued to refuse to communicate with officers, and during that standoff, officers heard a single gunshot, and they later discovered the man's body. Detectives and the crime scene unit remain on scene. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is also assisting with that investigation. The residences that surrounded 66 Wilton Avenue were evacuated during that standoff. We'll bring you updates as they become available. And Stamford police officers arrested a Waterbury man after he fired a gunshot into a crowd on Clark Street early Sunday morning. This happened at about 1:50 a.m. as Stamford police officer John Deresme and officer Daniel Kokoris were on foot patrol in the city's busy downtown, monitoring the closing of area nightclubs. It was at this time that Stamford police officer John Deresme was watching a group of people walking toward Clark Street when he saw a male subject separate from the group, produce a handgun, and fire a single shot into the crowd. Officer Deresme and Officer Kokoris quickly gave chase after the armed suspect, and after a short foot pursuit were able to apprehend him. He was later identified as DeAndre Quintrell Green of Waterbury. Green was arrested and charged with criminal possession of a firearm, carrying a pistol without a permit, unlawful discharge, and reckless endangerment. Fortunately, no one was injured in that incident, including the suspect. And in other news, Shelton police arrested a New Haven man for his alleged role in a fatal heroin overdose that took place on April 27th. On Thursday, April 27th, a 34-year-old Shelton woman was found already dead in her home from an apparent overdose. Police say after conducting a more thorough investigation, detectives learned that the woman had recently purchased heroin from a New Haven man. The following day, April 28th, Shelton detectives were able to contact that alleged drug dealer who agreed to meet up under the impression of making another sale of heroin. Officers set up surveillance in downtown Shelton and arrested 26-year-old Corey Sr. of New Haven, who was allegedly in possession of narcotics at the time. According to police, Sr. removed a large amount of crack cocaine and heroin from his buttock region at the time of his arrest. And in other news, no one was injured in a fire earlier Sunday that engulfed a Housatonic Drive home in Milford. At about 11:40 in the morning, Milford Fire Dispatch received a 911 call reporting a structure fire at 423 Housatonic Drive. When firefighters arrived, they found a large volume of fire on the main floor of that single-family home in the Devon section of Milford. Fire crews brought that blaze under control within minutes. The home suffered extensive fire, smoke, and water damage, rendering it uninhabitable. 2 people were at home at the time were able to get out safely before fire crews arrived. They were evaluated on the scene by Milford fire paramedics, and no injuries were reported. The Red Cross of Milford was on the scene to help those displaced residents. Milford's Fire Marshal Division is currently investigating the cause of that blaze. And a man suspected of committing 3 armed robberies in Greenwich within 2 days last week led police on a multi-state chase over the weekend, allegedly stealing a car in order to flee to Pennsylvania. On Friday night, Greenwich police located their suspect at J House, a boutique luxury hotel, and they tried to contain him. However, he fled the scene, drove onto I-95 South, where he bailed out of the vehicle and ran across 3 lanes of highway between exits 4 and 5. Officers began a foot chase with help from other agencies, including a police helicopter. However, the search in Connecticut ended Friday around 9:30 at night when it was determined that suspect had stolen a Range Rover in Port Chester, New York, and had been spotted in Pennsylvania. Now, that suspect eluded Pennsylvania State Police as well. They ceased the search at 2 in the morning in the area of Harrisburg. They did recover that stolen Range Rover. Greenwich Police are asking anyone with information to contact their tip line at 1-800-372-1176 or tips@greenwichct.org. But let's take a turn now, throw it over to Frank Granito for a look at the forecast. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. And we're still seeing some of those Sunday clouds hanging around this morning, but there is sunshine on the way. A high of 67 for today, and we can expect intervals of sun and clouds this afternoon during the HAN's coverage of baseball from Stanford High. But rain is back on its way later this evening. We are not quite done with those April showers yet. A chance for passing showers and scattered thunderstorms this evening and overnight with a low of 59 before Tuesday morning. Plenty of sunshine tomorrow, though, and lots of wind to go along with it. Gusts between 35 to 40 miles per hour are expected for Tuesday afternoon with a steady breeze right around 25. Warmer out tomorrow, though, with temperatures back into the low 70s before cooling down overnight with mostly clear skies and a low of 45. Cooler out again Wednesday, strong winds still expected. Not as breezy as Tuesday afternoon, but we could see gusts between 25 to 30 miles per hour. Mostly sunny out during the day, an expected high of 63 before cloud cover starts to increase overnight for what looks like is going to be an overcast Thursday around the county. That's going to do it for this weather update. Let's go back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. Well, we are going to step out for a break. When we come back, Donald Eng takes a look back on this day in history. Frank has your Nutmeg Sports update, and there's more local news coming up after this.
Part of banking well is doing good. That's why, with the support of local community partners, Bankwell has launched the Bankwell Pet Adoption Project to boost awareness about the hundreds of animals in local shelters that need a home. And when you donate to the cause using the Bankwell self-service coin machines, we'll match your donation. For details, visit mybankwell.com/pleaseadoptme. Bank smart, bank local, bank well.
Spring has sprung at Walter Stewart's Market, and we're celebrating the new season with fresh takes on spring. From the finest produce around to guaranteed fresh seafood delivered daily by the best local supplier. Not only are we your time-saving one-stop shop for everything you need this season, our personable team is always ready with a helping hand. Shop Stewart's for the best of spring. Find us at 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
The new fishing season is fast approaching, so it's time to head over to the dock shop and get your gear in order. We're now offering bait in both Darien and our Westport location. The dock shop can service and repair your rods and reels, spool up new line, and fill any empty space you might have in your tackle box. Whether you're a fisherman, boater, or beach bum, the dock shop is a unique place to shop. The dock shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com.
Today's coffee break is brought to you by Polly's Gymnastics of Stratford, recently featured in our Kids World supplement. Flip into summer with Polly's Gymnastics. Registration is now open for 7 weeks of classes starting June 26th. Classes for boys and girls at all levels are available, including preschoolers, advanced high school, and competitive classes. Call 203-375-3244 for more information.
Did you know heart attacks and strokes are the leading cause of death in America? Protect the health of you and your loved ones. Talk to a doctor about heart disease. Hi, I'm Dr. David Pazer with ProHealth Physicians, encouraging you to stay informed about health matters that affect you.
ProHealth Physicians is on the pulse of social media to share information about health and nutrition with the community. Get up-to-the-minute alerts, including ProHealth Physicians news and upcoming events. Connecticut's leading group of primary care doctors is just a click away.
At Budget Blinds, we're in business to frame the light, the day, and the night. So we give you an exclusive combination of high style, expert service, our no surprises pricing, and our no questions asked warranty. We believe that everyone, at every budget, deserves style and service. Isn't that a beautiful place to be?
Join the HAN Network and Make-A-Wish Connecticut to help make travel wishes come true for local kids with life-threatening medical conditions. Donate your unused airline miles to the HAN Network's Wishes in Flight campaign. Over 70% of wishes granted involve travel, and your unused airline miles can help make kids' dreams become a reality. Plus, once you donate your miles to Make-A-Wish, they never expire. Donate your miles at ct.wish.org/HAN Network and help us change lives, one wish at a time.
Welcome back to this May 1st edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski. Let's throw it over to Donald Eng to take a look back on this date in history. Don.
Well, Kate, it was a case of bad optics before we actually used the term optics to describe it. But we're going to start in 1328. The Treaty of Edinburgh-Northampton, England recognizes Scotland as an independent nation. Now, this treaty occurred 14 years after the Battle of Bannockburn ended the First War of Scottish Independence. That was the last scene of Braveheart, and I'm not going to say that Mel Gibson misled you, but since I'm calling it the First War of Scottish Independence, you've probably concluded there was a second, and there was, just 3 years later. Scotland, by the way, has been an independent nation since 1999, sort of. It's complicated. To 1786 we go. In Vienna, Mozart's opera, The Marriage of Figaro, is performed for the first time. It remains one of the most beloved and most performed operas in the world. The aria from Act 3, the Solaria d'Urtino, performed by those two Italian ladies that mesmerized the inmates at Shawshank Prison, briefly, and earned Andy Dufresne a week in the hole. And by the way, the opera from the Bugs Bunny cartoon, Hey Figaro, that's actually from Barber of Seville. That's not from Marriage of Figaro. 1999. The mummified remains of British climber George Mallory found on Mount Everest 75 years after his disappearance in 1924. It remains unknown whether Mallory actually reached the summit 29 years before Edmund Hillary. The photo he had planned to place at the summit was not found in his pack. His camera, which presumably would have provided conclusive evidence, has also never been found. Finally, now we go to 2003 off the coast of California for this.
Continues. Al-Qaeda is wounded, not destroyed. The scattered cells of the terrorist network still operate in many nations, and we know from daily intelligence that they continue to plot against free people. The proliferation of deadly weapons remains a serious danger. The enemies of freedom are not idle, and neither are we. Our government has taken unprecedented measures to defend the homeland, and we will continue to hunt down the enemy before he can strike.
That was what has become known as the Mission Accomplished speech aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. President George W. Bush declares major combat operations in Iraq have ended. Now, to be fair, Bush never said mission accomplished during the speech, and he clearly said in that clip that the mission would continue, but he also had an enormous banner that said mission accomplished hanging over him while he was talking. It was what we now call the optics of the speech that has remained with us 14 years later as fighting in Iraq continues. That's your look back in history for today, International Workers' Day. And I'm Donald Eng.
All right, thanks so much, Don. Well, in other local news, it's been 3 years since a young Milford woman was killed at Jonathan Law High School on the morning of her junior prom, stabbed by a fellow student who has since been sentenced for that crime. Well, on Saturday, people gathered for the third year in a row not to focus on Marin Sanchez's death, but to remember her life at an event filled with music and games. The Peace, Love, and Music for Marin event, which supports local scholarships, is a day to make people smile and to share with people they might not even know. That, according to Jonathan Law High School principal Fran Thompson. Mayor Ben Blake also spoke at the Milford event Saturday morning as runners lined up to take part in a 5K that started the celebration. Marin's death, he said, devastated the community, but it also brought people together. Well, there's a lot more on that story at milfordmirror.com. But let's throw it back over to Frank Granito now for a Nutmeg Sports Update. Frank, busy weekend.
A very busy weekend, but before we get to all that, we have our Week 2 winners for the Spring Athlete of the Week, and it was all Stanford this weekend. Blake Newcomer of West Hill Baseball threw a 2-hit shutout as the Vikings defeated the Danbury Hatters 2-0 Wednesday in Stanford. Newcomer did not walk a single Hatter, struck out 3, and allowed just 2 singles in the win. And Tori Kuskana of Stanford Softball drove in 3 runs as the Black Knights topped New Canaan 4-1 in a meeting of 2 of the best teams in the FCAC. Kuskana's RBI single in the 3rd inning gave the Black Knights a 1-0 lead. She also had a 2-run double off the center field fence in the 8th inning. So congratulations to Blake and Tori. We're going to have the Week 3 nominees for you shortly. But let's go to this busy weekend, and it was Darien who ruled the weekend, starting on Friday in a rematch of last year's FCAC championship when the Blue Wave fought back from a 2-1 deficit against Ridgefield, winning the final 2 sets to take the match 3-2. Here are the highlights from Friday's volleyball.
And the point lives on. Lincoln again.
Great rally here from both sides. Got to get it over.
And a free ball opportunity. Oh, no. DeVivo called for the two-handed carry. That's a frustrating way to lose the first set for Ridgefield. 24-20. And Herget just a little too cute with that one. We're tied at 1.
Can't give away free points like that in a game like this.
Far side, Lincoln. Will it land out? Yes, it did. And that'll do it. Second game in a row that it finishes 25-20. To the short side, Herget for the win. Count it. 25-19. First of 15 is going to win when we get back 5-2. 14-13, Darien leading.
Nice serve by Peckham.
They're going to live and die with Preston. He wants the drop shot, and Ladowdy keeps it alive. Miscommunication. It's played underhand with 2, and the Blue Wave hold on.
So congratulations to Darien. They remain undefeated on the season. Ridgefield suffering their first loss, but something tells me we will see those two teams meet up at least one more time this year. Championship rematches continued on Saturday for our lacrosse doubleheader when New Canaan and Darien would square off in both boys and girls lacs. The girls were up first, and it was almost deja vu of last year's championship as the Rams found themselves leading by 2 late in the game and just moments away from knocking off their arch rival. But back-to-back free position goals by Emma Lesko in the final minute and one more from Anna Jacques in the second overtime period completed the Blue Wave comeback and saw Darien grab sole possession of first place in the FCAC. Here are the highlights from the Blue Wave comeback win.
O'Day, straight up. This is how the Wave scored their first goal, and now 2 for 2 on the afternoon as the senior captain collects her first. Back behind the cage again. Again, the Rams very content with keeping Darien to the outside, but making her way to the front, firing on cage and able to finish. This time was Emma Jacques, and it is 3-2 as Darien has taken control the past 5 minutes. Shot to the right of Blair, able to finish, and it's all Darien right now.
On the scorebook for the first time today.
Reposition, looking on Schuler, and she's able to beat her down low. So the lead down to 2. Huge goal for the Rams.
Now 1 for 2. Maybe we'll see her get her the rest of the way.
Bruno pass in front. Charlton wide open, and we're tied at 6 after the Rams strike twice quickly at the start. Earlier, how often they were trying to isolate and work individually on the offensive like we saw there from Carly Bucci, but it's been a team effort on the offensive this half, Kev. My question was going to be, do you possibly consider, I'm going to rescind that question. Dial was not missing on the third attempt. She finishes the lead back to 3 with 6:14. Great look from Bucci. Better finish by Dial.
Huge opportunity here for Lesko.
As she sends one to the top of the net. And it's now a 1-goal game. As still waiting in the box is Ashley Humphreys, and Lesko scores again.
Great job by Lesko, not taking the initial shot. That's the way New Canaan wants to play and just pack it inside.
90 seconds remaining, fighting all the way to the front of the net, and able to finish it is Emma Jacques. And this one is over.
Another heartbreak for New Canaan in this rivalry. Had a great opportunity, but you got to credit the girls of the Blue Wave for fighting back.
A tremendous effort by the Darien girls. Congrats to the Blue Wave. What a great game that was. Then our final game of the weekend featured the #1 team in the nation, putting their 39-game win streak on the line on the road against their biggest rival. New Canaan played Darien as well as anyone has during this incredible run, but in the end, the offensive firepower of Logan McGovern and Kevin Lindley proved to be too much as the two combined to score Darien's final 4 goals, pushing the Wave to an 11-8 victory. Here are the highlights of Darien's 40th consecutive victory.
To do already in this game with an early slashing penalty. If they can do that, they should be all right.
As they free Holzer up on the right wing, and he gets the bounce shot to go. The Rams strike first. It's 1-0. Working up top, trying to get free. Another shot down low, and it goes. Jack Joyce this time. And 2 quick goals in the Wave on top. Trying to shake free of Fay. Pass out in front. Skip Villanueva. O'Connell the shot. And the sophomore buries it.
Low to high ripper there, Frank.
Opening up top. Hesitate, fire. And give it the sign to count it.
Yeah, you just can't give Logan McGovern that much time. He's going to put it in the back of the net.
As it was Brooks Gamble who delivered the big check originally. Had it popped away. Now an opportunity. And putting Morris down to his keister was James Solberg, who took the pass and finished on the doorstep. Quickly, it is 6-4. Braden trying to dodge as he works in through a sea of black jerseys. Shoots the ball down low, bounces upstairs. We're tied at 6.
Great job splitting the double
this afternoon.
Here's Holzer with it now. Looks to Quentin O'Connell, tries the low to high again, and he gets it to go.
Great job changing planes there, Frank. Plenty of time.
But he takes the big brunt of it. Lost possession momentarily. Pass down low, and McGovern on the doorstep converts with 5 seconds to go. That one's going to sting.
Comfortable McGovern at X. Trying to take advantage of a great move there. Drew the flag and finished. And I might use a timeout right now from Coach Chip Buzzio and not let this one get away from me.
40 in a row as the streak is still alive. The final score from Dunning, 11 for the Wave, 8 for New Canaan.
So Darien remains undefeated on the season, now first place atop the entire conference as well as the East Division. Huge win by the Wave, but the Rams look to almost have them figured out. It'd be interesting to see these two meet up again in the postseason. Don't forget, later on today, we're at Stanford High School for a baseball matchup between the Danbury Hatters and the Stanford Black Knights. Both teams just a game back of the 8th and final playoff spot. This will be one of the most crucial games we see all month long in our road to Harbor Yard quest. Pregame will be at 3:30 this afternoon. For the 4 o'clock start, we'll have an elongated pregame to cover up for Nutmeg Sports, which will not be on the air at 2 o'clock today. That's going to do it for this Nutmeg Sports update. Let's go back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. And later on, you'll be telling us the nominees for Athlete
That's right.
of the
We
Week.
will have our Week 3 nominees for Athlete of the Week at the end of the show.
All right, great. Thanks, Frank. Well, in other local news, although reservoir levels have been improving regionally, they are still below last year's levels. With the hottest months just around the corner, Aquarian Water Company and local officials have joined together to restrict outdoor watering in 4 area towns to a maximum of twice weekly on set days and during set time periods. Well, today, Aquarian has removed the sprinkler irrigation ban and moved to a twice weekly sprinkler schedule for customers in Darien, Greenwich, New Canaan, and Stanford. Now, residents with addresses ending in even numbers can water only on Sundays and Wednesdays and before 10 in the morning or after 6 at night. At odd-numbered addresses, watering may take place only on Saturdays and Tuesdays, and again, only before 10 in the morning or after 6 at night. The restrictions apply to both in-ground irrigation systems and above-ground sprinklers. Drip irrigation, soaker hoses, and handheld watering are allowed at any time. And you can get more info at ncadvertiser.com. Well, a Shelton native is going to be on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon tonight, May 1st. Brian Reed, the host and executive producer of a podcast that has reached blockbuster status, according to the New York Times, is a 2003 Shelton High graduate. Reed is a senior producer at This American Life and the host of S-Town, a true-life murder mystery turned Southern feud, and much more. We spoke with Reed last week, and you can read that story at sheltonherald.com. You can also watch Reed on Jimmy Fallon tonight at 11:30 on NBC. And Connecticut's Beardsley Zoo's rare endangered ocelot Kuma underwent an artificial insemination procedure last week as part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums Species Survival Plan. Dr. Bill Swanson, Director of Animals Research at the Cincinnati Zoo, traveled to Connecticut to perform that procedure. Now, ocelots have been on the U.S. endangered species list for more than 40 years. Population projections indicate that several small cat species, including the ocelot, will see their genetic diversity reduced to dangerously low levels in zoos over the next 50 years. Reproductive sciences, including techniques like artificial insemination, are playing a key role in helping to address that challenge. Now, Kuma, the resident ocelot at the Beardsley Zoo, has given birth to 2 kittens. Dr. Swanson has performed the AI procedure on her in the past. Kuma's first kitten, Milagre, was born in 2008. A second kitten, Ayla, was born in 2010. And a grand kitten, Nico, now lives at the Buffalo Zoo. Well, we are going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we're going to recap some of the top news stories we're following today on your coffee break after this.
When it comes to considering the outside of your home, just imagine the possibilities. Whether your dream is a stunning free-form pool or a tranquil, secluded garden, the team of professionals at Stonebridge Associates will make it a reality. We offer unparalleled landscape design and construction, masonry development, pools, spas, and water features, as well as landscape and garden maintenance. No other firm can offer the same level of creativity, quality, and personal attention. Discover the possibilities at stonebridgeassociates.net or call 203-544-8376 today.
At the Milford Bank, we offer an extensive selection of lending products and services to meet virtually any need. Submit your application online in our Mortgage Web Center. Start to finish, you can apply for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. Our knowledgeable and helpful staff are available to meet with you at your convenience. To learn more about what we can do for you, stop by one of our Milford Bank offices or visit us at milfordbank.com. The Milford Bank, always there. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
On time, done right, safe and reliable. MrHandymanCT.com.
Let our satisfied customers tell it.
I have called Mr. Handyman for every reason, every occasion, every broken item, every leak. They have bailed me out on many occasions, and I would recommend them to anyone.
For any project, large or small.
MrHandymanCT.com.
Pizza to satisfy even the most demanding critics. Tuesday Pazza Pizza.
I'm Tracy Masella, a licensed clinical social worker at Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan. Join me each month as we talk with experts on the front lines of the treatment of mental health and addiction. Straight Talk with Tracy, a Silver Hill Hospital production, airs at 12 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month here on the HAN network.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier network, and we've also reached more than 2 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to this Monday edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with the latest local news. Some of the top stories we're following today, including that 2 people are dead in what's being investigated as a murder-suicide in Norwalk this morning, involving a father and a daughter. Around 12:30 in the morning, patrol officers were dispatched to 66 Wilton Avenue. The complainants had gone there to check on a coworker, 33-year-old Melissa Wilkinson, who had not shown up for work. They reported that they observed their coworker lying on the floor through a window. Those coworkers then kicked in the door and found her deceased. They also observed a male later identified as 55-year-old Mark Wilkinson sitting in the apartment holding a firearm. They fled the scene and called police. Arriving officers attempted to speak with the male, but he refused. The Norwalk Emergency Services Unit tactical team and crisis negotiations responded to the scene and attempted to make contact with Wilkinson. He continued to refuse to communicate with officers, and during that standoff, officers heard a single gunshot, and they later discovered his body. Detectives and the crime scene unit remain on scene this morning investigating. The office of the chief medical examiner is also assisting with the investigation. The residences that surrounded 66 Wilton Avenue were evacuated during the standoff. And in other news, Stamford police officers arrested a Waterbury man after he fired a gunshot into a crowd on Clark Street early Sunday morning. This happened at around 1:50 in the morning. Stamford police officer John DeResme and officer Daniel Kokoris were on foot patrol in the city's busy downtown, monitoring the closing of nightclubs. It was at this time that Stamford police officer John DeResme was watching a group of people walking toward Clark Street when he saw a man separate from the group, produce a handgun, and fire a single shot into the crowd. Officer DeResme and Officer Kokoris quickly gave chase after the armed suspect, and after a short foot pursuit, were able to apprehend the armed man, later identified as DeAndre Quintel Green of Waterbury. Green was arrested and charged with criminal possession of a firearm, carrying a pistol without a permit, unlawful discharge, and reckless endangerment. Fortunately, no one was injured in that incident, including the suspect. And Shelton police arrested a New Haven man for his alleged role in a fatal heroin overdose that took place on April 27th. On Thursday, a 34-year-old Shelton woman was found dead in her home from an apparent overdose, according to police. After conducting a more thorough investigation, Shelton detectives learned that the woman had recently purchased heroin from a New Haven man. The following day, Shelton detectives were able to contact that drug dealer, who agreed to meet up under the impression of making another sale. Officers set up surveillance in the downtown Shelton area and arrested 26-year-old Corey Sr. of New Haven, who was in possession of narcotics at the time. According to police, Sr. removed a large amount of crack cocaine and heroin from his buttock region at the time of that arrest. And in other news, no one was injured in a fire earlier Sunday that engulfed a Housatonic Drive home in Milford. At about 11:40 in the morning, Milford Fire Dispatch received a 911 call reporting a structure fire at 423 Housatonic Drive. When firefighters arrived, they found a large volume of fire on the main floor of that single-family home in the Devon area. Fire crews brought that blaze under control within minutes. The home did suffer extensive damage, rendering it uninhabitable. 2 people at home at the time were able to get out safely. They were evaluated on the scene and no injuries were reported. The Red Cross of Milford was on the scene to help those displaced residents. Well, let's shift gears now. We're going to throw it over to Frank Granito to actually get the nominees for this week's Athlete of the Week poll. Frank, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Kate. We'll start with the girls, and first up is Bridget Chiravali of the Danbury girls track and field team. Chiravali earned a pair of first-place finishes in wins over Trumbull and Staples this week. The senior took home gold in the 100-meter hurdles with a time of 14.7 seconds, and in the 300-meter hurdles at 48.7. Ali Szabo of the Trumbull softball team shut out the New Canaan Rams and struck out 16 in 8 innings while winning a pitcher's duel with Jillian Kane 3-0 last Monday at Waveney Park. Szabo allowed just 3 hits, all of them singles, while only walking 3. Carly Bucci of the New Canaan girls lacrosse team had quite the week, racking up 13 points in 2 games. The junior picked up 9 points on 4 goals and 5 assists as the Rams routed Staples 16-8 on Tuesday, then added 4 more points on 2 goals and 2 assists in New Canaan's loss 11-10 to Darien. Janiyah Serrano of Central softball had 6 hits, drove in 5 runs, and the Hilltoppers rolled over Harding 26-1. In the Bridgeport Softball Classic Championship game, Serrano's hits included a single and a double in the first inning and a 2-run homer in the 5th. She also scored 5 times herself. And finally for the girls, Christine Fiore of Darien Girls Lacrosse fueled Darien's comeback, scoring a game-high 5 goals as the Blue Wave rallied to beat New Canaan 11-10. Fiore picked up a hat-trick in the game's first team minutes and added 2 goals in the second half that ended a 6-0 run for the Rams. Let's look at the male athlete nominees now. Chad Knight of the Staples baseball team had 4 hits, including a homer and 2 doubles, driving in 7 when the Wreckers defeated Greenwich 14-2. It was the Wreckers' 4th win in their past 5 games and are now only 1 game back of the first-place Ridgefield Tigers. John Thrasher of Ridgefield Baseball belted a 3-run homer with 1 out in the top of the 6th to lead the Tigers to a 4-3 victory over the defending conference champion Darien Blue Wave. That homer was part of a 2-for-3 day for Thrasher, who helped Ridgefield improve to 11-1 this spring, remaining atop the conference. Ben Farrow of Trumbull Baseball started on the mound and went the distance as the Eagles handed New Canaan its first defeat of the season, 8-1. Farrow pitched 7 innings, allowing only 1 run on 4 hits, walking 2, and striking out 8 against the New Canaan team that had been averaging 11 runs per game. Tim Herget of the Darien volleyball team had a match-best 18 kills as Darien defeated Ridgefield 3-2 in a rematch of last season's conference and state championship games. Darien trailed 2-1 entering the 4th set, but the senior captain led the Wave back, winning the final 2 sets 25-19 and 15-13. And finally, Gareth Cassetta of the Ward boys lacrosse team led the way offensively for the Mustangs, scoring 4 goals, including the double overtime winner, as Ward took down St. Joe's 9-8. With the win, the Mustangs jumped back to 500 on the season, improving to 5-5. Those are your Week 3 nominees for Athlete of the Week. Our poll will be up this afternoon by 3:30 when we go on the air for Nutmeg Sports. Make sure you vote. You have until Sunday night, 11:59, and we will reveal the winners next week on your coffee break at 11 a.m. Let's go back to Kate now.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. Well, we are going to wrap things up here on your coffee break. As Frank said, 3:30 is special Nutmeg Sports, and 4 o'clock baseball, Danbury at Stanford. And we will see you tomorrow for your coffee break at 11.